Hey, welcome back, slot car drag racing fans. Just finished up my second coat. It's a little wettish still and used about the same amount as I used with the Kills too. Now I'm not going to apply the copper tape real quick. I'm going to give it at least a week to go ahead and set. It normally takes 30 days for paint to cure, but in Arizona, that's a different story. So in the meantime, I'm going to come up with a design for the copper foil tape dispenser, and I'm going to go ahead and make it myself, just put it together. In this part two, we'll be laying the copper tape down. I'm going to show all the connections and wiring diagrams, the silver solder and the tape. I am going to use the Master Foil Plus, got from PCH out in California. There are many places that sell it. Stuff looks pretty good. It is very sticky, sticky, sticky. I have noticed watching other YouTube videos that they just go ahead and lay it down like this and they go ahead and put it down. Well, you know, I'm a do-it-yourselfer and I'm sure you guys are too. So I'm going to go ahead and make a dispenser for it. And I got my idea from the tape dispenser. Look at that. I made this little drawing not to scale, of course. This is the dispenser itself. You have the base. You have this stand-up part here. Then you have the center disc. And then you have the outer disc, which holds the tape on. Sizes are mentioned here. The base, 5 3/4 by 4. Now this is mine. A lot of stuff was left over from the old homeowner. You know, these are 3/8 inch pieces of birch plywood. They are tough. And he left several these round discs I can utilize. Hey, thank you. Okay, the stand-up piece, number 2. This is this piece here. It's 6 inches by 5 3/4 by 3/8 inch thick. And by the way, the base is also 3/8 of an inch thick. Number 3, this piece here will hold the copper foil tape. I made it 3 inches by 1/4 inch to support the copper foil tape. And the idea of this is 3 inches. And moving right along, number 4, this is the cover that will hold the tape on. Copper foil tape base backer, 5.5 inches diameter by 1/4 inch thick. And I used 2 number 8 by 1.5 inch wood screws for the base to the stand, countersunk. And then used 1 number 8 32 1-inch length anchor bolt, 1 number 8 wide washer, 1 number 8 32 butterfly nut. That's to hold everything together. Our finished product. Butterfly nut. Put some heavy-duty felt pads on the bottom, prevent scuffing on the track. I bought a couple of driver station kits from Slot Car Corner. Not bad. Wanted to see what they were like. Slot car tracks are all wired differently, and this is my version, and this works for me. If you follow me through this, okay, you have your power supply, positive, negative. This is what I'm going to go ahead and use. Positive here, negative there. You have the terminal block. And the number 1 lane will go to the number 1 lane on the right side. The number 2 lane will go all the way over to the lane 2 on the right side. Okay, and then you have the negative. Now, this is where it gets kind of strange. Okay, so we'll say number 1 lane comes down to the driver's station on the red side, goes to the controller, out of the controller, up to the number 1 lane on the left side. And the same thing holds for lane 2. And of course, the car direction. And this has worked for me, so we don't have to, according to the Falco instructions, change the leads here. My new DeFalco slot car drag race controller, DD420, used for bracket racing, SG racing, Super Street, ET. It says, important hookup, red boot must go to positive track post and black boot to negative track post on a transistor controller. To test track polarity, hook up controller, then touch car to track braid without pulling the trigger. If the car gets power, then clips are in correct post. Reverse the clips, mark track post with red plus and black minus. For future hookup, perform this hookup test when you go to the new track that does not have marked terminals. I forgot to tell you that I picked this up from PCH Express. Whew. Nuclear power controller. This is my block terminal I got from Slot Car Corner. Made some notes here. And if you're into building the whole track, they make a kit for it, part number TWW-214, or you can buy it separately, heavy duty terminal block dual row, 4 positions, part number TB-01010. I think they sell at this time, March 2024, about $6. You will need 2 terminal block jumpers, part number JMPHD. These are them here. For the foil tape connector here that will be silver soldered on going to a 14 gauge wire, I made these little hold downs here out of guess who? Home Depot. They're paint paddles. Put a groove in it to hold the 14 gauge wire, and that'll hook up to here. And just a mounting spot so there's no pull on the copper wire. Or is that copper foil? At 68 in the garage, and before I start putting the copper foil tape down, I vacuumed and used a tack cloth. And always a good thing to do is wash your hand before you put that copper tape on. Here we go, putting the copper foil tape on. Whoopee! Little jig is working. I'm laying down about 8 inches at a time, smoothing it out as I go along. Slow and easy is the name of the game. Did find a good way when I start feeding it down through these holes here by doubling it up on the ends by a little less than 1/4 of an inch like I got there, and then snipping it off like so. That'll help feeding it going down into the hole. I got the last 8-foot section to do, both lanes. And it looks like we got enough tape. After very carefully making sure the copper tape is pulled up taut, there's no screws in underneath, there's no 1/4 inch by 20 all thread in there. It's just as it is. Came up pretty darn good. And yes, I will go ahead and put the screws in and all thread, make sure it's tight. I've been racking my brains trying to come up with a under track connector, and I found out, well, that's too big and bulky. This is a simulation little jig I've been working on, and one way on the track. And then if I flip it over, and I went ahead and silver solder these connections together, that might work. Let's try this. I'll start off with a terminal connector, and I don't have non-insulated type, so I removed the insulation off there. And this is what I found. Looks pretty good for a 14 gauge wire. Using a small strip of wire, we'll say I call it 2 inches. We stripped it down, crimped it, and put a wood screw underneath there. Now, the only problem, I've got to go ahead and silver solder these, and then stick it up underneath there by screwing it up underneath there, and melting the silver solder onto the track tape. Maybe I forgot to tell you that I'm going to go ahead and put the silver solder on thick, and then when it's ready to mount it, now I've got to go ahead and re-silver solder it up, and this will be done upside down. It didn't turn out half bad. And you're probably saying, well, why'd you take the plastic off? Well, it left the connection, the terminal, too proud. And even though, also I checked the continuity without putting those wires on, and I had continuity because the connections were tight. But this is a secondary, like a backup. This will work, and I checked it already. After we have laid our copper foil tape down, we can go ahead and silver solder our 14 gauge black wire to the left side and do the same thing for lane 2. Now as this, you can see this is lane 1, and then go ahead and do the same thing for the red. This is the best way I know of holding it down while you're silver solder. All right, we have our track connectors in. They are not connected to the terminal block yet. And as you can see, hey, this is one of those paint sticks from Home Depot. Put a groove in it for each 14 gauge wire. These are anchor bolts, 832. Next, after you have checked continuity in all sections, it's time to go ahead and check the car continuity. And I went ahead and put jumper lines in, positive, negative, and we'll go ahead and check the continuity for the car. Let's go ahead and turn our meter on. And it's open. Nothing there. Put the car on. And we have connection. That's good. Now it's time to check the connection between the controller and the track. Start our meters off. I went ahead and connected a jumper from the red to my meter, and the black lead from here to the meter lead. And we have our controller set up. Black is black, red is red. Let's go ahead and turn and the car is in the lane. We'll turn our machine on. We should have that. Now, if we had a reading on there, it'd be continuity. That means the red lead on the controller, the red and black would have to be switched around. So let's go ahead and depress our meter here, or controller. There you go, we have continuity. That is correct. Now, if it wasn't, you'd change those leads around. Just picked this up from Amazon today. The company is, if you can pronounce it, better for you. The model number is DPS 3010U. It's 30 DC voltage at 10 amps and can be adjustable. First thing you want to go ahead and do is look on the back and turn the voltage to 115 on the back. Just switch it over right there like I did. It's for the people in the US. And it was just over $62 US. In it, of course, you get the power supply, instructions, a warranty card, and the power line just over 46 inches, and the output line is 28 inches, positive, negative. And they also include if you ground it. Now, the ground wire is not included on this. The instructions are pretty straightforward. Please read the instructions. Before we turn it on, I want to go ahead and show you some of the functions. This is our voltage. This is the fine selector for the voltage. This is our amp adjustment, and this for the fine tune amp adjustment. It comes with a USB-A and a USB-C and a overcurrent type protector here. Switch to the right, the overcurrent protection. If the gets over current, it'll automatically shut off and you'll get a signal up here. And it switched when I got it over to the left. So if it's providing output is the output. So if you have 30 volts, 10 amps, that's what you're going to go ahead and get. And even if you select it going down, voltage and amps. Got this set up this way, so I wanted to show you that it's just off in the voltage a little bit. We turned it on, we'll hear a beep. It's factory set. There you go. Now let's turn our meter on. And it reads just a skosh low, 29.6. We had to use the voltage selector, and I got it all the way up to 30.42. To read approximately 30 volts DC. I'll lower this back to the 30. Yours might be different. Using the 10 amp scale, and I found out when I was running the car down the track, I got between 1 and 1.5. So if we switch it down, we can have the output read. I'll just go ahead and make it 5 amps. And to fine tune that one, you can use the next dial below that. Okay, here's our setup. Car's on the track. Defalco controller is really detuned. I want to slow this thing down. And track is set for 12 volts. Still have plenty of work to do on the track. I got to go ahead and make starting lines. I got to make the pre-stage, stage, and finish, etc. So we're just doing this as a setup. Nothing special. Make sure you have your leads correct. With our Defalco controller detuned, let's give her a try. I'm set. I'm good. One thing I forgot to tell you, it's 65 degrees today in the garage. It's about 9 o'clock in the morning here in AZ. Let's see, April 11th. And there is a fan provided with this machine. It hasn't turned on yet, and we're running it as it is. No noise. This will conclude part 2. Stay tuned for part 3. Yes, this is a picture of my late buddy's 56 Chevy, which I will be turning into a slot car drag car. And of course the photo is turned around. Notice? Part 3 will be installing Drag It Anywhere or DIA unit. Thank you, Todd. You can see the website there, dragitanywhere.com, and there's his phone number there. And we will be installing the drag strip sensors, i.e. pre-stage and stage and finish line sensors. And also, like I mentioned before, I will be turning my model car, the 56 model car, into something like this, but it will be a drag slot car competing against that 66 bad Nova.